All information in this program is known to be accurate at the time of recording. Any commentary by the host is for discussion purposes only. Anyone labeled a person of interest by the host or family has not been charged with a crime. All suspects charged with crimes related or unrelated to a case covered are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Opinions and views expressed by the host do not represent views of the families or sponsors of this program. In the U.S., there are over 600,000 missing persons cases reported each year. Many go unnoticed by the general public and are not covered by the media or investigated by law enforcement. Here is just one of these stories. From Grim Media, I'm your host, Steve Stone, and this is the Grim Truth Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Steve Stone. This is the Grim Truth Podcast. Before we get into today's video, if you are new to the channel, we profile missing persons cases in a way that we hope to not only shed light on the individual missing, the struggles of the family, but individualize them, show them that they're people. You know, they're not the normal glamorous missing persons cases you see on different media sources, whether it be Oxygen or any of these other channels. But these are real people, real families struggling to find their missing loved ones. And if you want to be a part of that in our growing group, then subscribe to the Grim Truth Podcast YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the podcast or any other content related to the missing. Make sure you leave us a like and comment down below. Let us know what you think about the case. Give us your opinions. Even if it's to show support for the family, comment. So, like, subscribe, share, and let's get into today's video. Today, we are going to talk about Spencer Clark. Spencer went missing in Morlanton, Arkansas, around the holiday Christmas time, just this past. He had some mental health issues that challenged him, and like challenged every other American that goes through these things. But he was working on it. He didn't live a conventional lifestyle. He kind of lived off the grid, but that's how some people like to do things. And sometimes I think about doing it, to be quite honest. But he dealt with things, and he was doing the best he could. Before we air the interview I did with his mom, Tanya, the tragedy of this particular case is in that Tanya was working very, very hard to find Spencer. And you could not tell that she was sick. And in fact, she thought that she was coming down with the flu or something to that effect. And I had spoken to her on several occasions, and you could not tell this woman was ill. And she was doing everything humanly possible. And I'm talking about laying awake, worrying what a mother would do, worrying about her son. Just this past week, as of the time of this recording, she passed away. And I had already done the interview for the podcast weeks ago, and I spoke with her son Dylan, who I just out of respect wanted to touch base and say, you know, I did this interview with your mom, and he was kind enough to allow us to use that. I want to thank him very much. This cannot be easy, and I would just say that it takes a strong family to have to deal with all these obstacles, and then this tragedy on top of another tragedy. And I thoughts and prayers to this family, and definitely comment down below your support for the family. I'm sure they would love to see that. So let's get into the interview I did with Tanya a few weeks ago about Spencer and some of the things he had to struggle with.
Has a mental condition. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and at times it becomes paranoid schizophrenia. You know what I mean?
Right.
He also suffers from antisocial disorder, and this has been going on for about 4.5 years. In August, we finally, he got to a good place where they really, really helped him, got him on medicines that didn't, make him see things, hear things, stuff like that, so he was doing really good. The best he's done in, let's say, 4.5 years. He had just really started reaching back out to people because since all that had been going on, he was really, his personality had changed, I'm going to say. Instead of being an outgoing person, he sort of stayed to himself and just the family until he's here recently. And that there have been numerous times when I've had to have involuntary commitment orders done on him to get him to the hospital, to get him help and stuff like that.
When it comes to mentally ill individuals, it's one of my core beliefs that when it comes to missing individuals with mental illness, I think that they should be treated like children, like the elderly, and they should be put in the front of the line. And that may sound crass to some, and I don't mean to be that way, but mentally ill individuals often take medication, and medication must be monitored. I mean, I personally take medication for an anxiety disorder, and that if you stop taking it, that can affect you physically and cause serious complications. Why it's so important for an alert system for people that suffer with anxiety, depression, any other type of mental illness, their lives could be endangered. And again, this goes to a warning system like the Amber Alert, like the Silver Alert, and puts these cases ahead of the line. That way, local, state, and federal resources could be used to locate missing people. Now, if I had it my way, there'd be an alert for every missing person out there so we could prevent tragedy from striking these families and bringing home their loved ones. And unfortunately, this isn't a perfect world, so we don't get that. Now, in Spencer's case, law enforcement has done a wonderful job of not only keeping the family informed of what's going on, but doing the investigative process and actually looking for Spencer. Also, mental illness is something that it's not like you wake up one day and go, I want that. It's not like, we can discuss dependency issues and whether addiction is a disease and not. But when it comes to mental illness, you don't wake up one day and decide that's what you're going to do. And again, that's why it is so very important for an alert system to come out for the mentally ill. That way that they're not getting themselves into trouble. If they're off medication, you see it far too often where a person who's taken medication off medication, things happen to their chemicals in their bodies. They can get sick. They can go with withdrawals. A lot of things could happen, and I can't stress enough how important it is that mentally ill individuals who go missing should be put right in front of the line with it, like Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, and things of that nature. Tanya, in our next clip, Tanya's going to discuss the events leading up to reporting him missing and the sightings that people were seeing of Spencer. Take a listen.
The last day anybody saw him was on December 20th. I saw him, his brother saw him, because I work at the public library here in Perry County. A lot of times he would come to the library and just kind of hang out there and download, like, what's that, Moby, that television, that you can stream.
Yeah.
Channel and stuff like that, just use our internet there at the library, stuff like that. And that was fine with everybody because, everybody had seen what has been going on with Spencer for the last 4.5 years. And, it's a very small, of course, community, Perry County is. But since August, he was doing so well, he bought himself like a used camper and a new scooter. Because at this time, he really didn't want to drive a vehicle, which I actually think his license was suspended too, but it didn't apply to the scooter. So he was getting back out there, and on the 20th, even people at our local grocery store, because they have a deli there, they had seen him. And then when I had made the missing persons report, they made the flyer, and I started posting it, a lot of people were contacting me saying, "Oh my gosh, I just seen him, at the grocery store the other day. He was doing so well, And that is true. He was doing very well. We know for a fact, on the 20th, after all of us seen him, apparently at some particular time, he conversated with someone. He parked his scooter up here at my house, which his camper is over off the lake, in a real nice, quiet area. Wednesday morning when I was going to work, I saw his scooter there. And I saw something in front of the scooter, and I just thought it was like a sleeping bag, or because Spencer would from time to time go out to the woods and just, I guess, kind of clear his mind. But he might stay out there for a day or two. It wasn't nothing, like this, okay?
Right.
And he knew there was a real bad cold front was coming in.
Was this the Wednesday
right
after the 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the Wednesday after the 20th. So you'd be looking at, like, on the 21st that morning, I saw something. And I didn't stop that morning because I was going to work, and I was like, well, he's done got that, sleeping bag is what I was thinking in my mind. I was thinking, okay, he must have spent the night in the woods. Well, when I came home that evening, I stopped down there. And it wasn't his sleeping bag. It was his clothes. His jacket, his coveralls, his tennis shoes, his socks, everything. Okay, so I picked that stuff up, and I was like, well, he must have changed clothes, and someone had to obviously pick him up, is what I'm thinking, okay, at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of the things that are concerning to me is, now, people living off the grid, that happens all the time. Again, sometimes I think about it. But there were normal things, I guess, that Spencer would do. One of those things would not be to leave his clothing and stuff around. And Tanya believed that, she says at first she thought it might have been a sleeping bag. I guess that might not have been abnormal, but all of his clothes being there, that struck her completely off guard. The other thing that I find that kind of matches what she was saying was that obviously she had the phone records, which were turned over to law enforcement. We'll get into that in the next segment. But they know that he talked to somebody around this time frame, and she spoke of a cold front. Now, comment down below we live in Florida, so it gets 60. We've got jackets on. But in Arkansas, I know that it gets doggone cold. Is that normal for someone if they? I'm not sure if maybe Spencer paid attention to the weather, but again, comment down below if you know that it's going to be cold, you're not going to leave all your stuff around. And I don't even think Spencer is a smart guy. I honestly don't think that he is going to leave his stuff lying around, especially when we find out what was lying around in the next segment. So comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. I get the sense that there was maybe he was going somewhere, or maybe it was something. It was a last minute decision to go. Or he got picked up or something of that effect. Because, he's got his camper, he's got his the scooter deal he's riding on, and then a bag of clothes, just clothes. All of his earthly possessions laying right there on the ground. In this next segment, this is what doesn't make any sense. You're going to hear what she found with it and something very peculiar. Take a listen.
On the 22nd, still hadn't seen him, heard anything, and I'm thinking it's the 22nd is when I called the sheriff's department to report him, missing because his clothes were there and everything. And they took the missing persons report. Bill Finley with the Perry County Police Department took it. And like I said, I'm thinking it's like the 23rd, 22nd, somewhere in there. I don't have that date written down. But so he took all that information, and then Robert Bull, who is my husband's third cousin, and he's friends with Spencer, and another gentleman by the name of Jamie Campbell, they contacted me because we thought, okay, at this time we're thinking maybe Spencer went behind my house, our house, warehouser property, and they leased the land to different hunting clubs and such. So we start searching back there. There's about 6 of us, group of 6, had searched and searched, and Robert searched for a full week because he happened to be off work that week. And, we searched and searched. My boss, Alan Jarvis, his significant other, Mikey Jarvis, they came and they helped search too. The Bill Finley launched a drone and searched, the area. And it's real wooded back there, okay? I mean, really wooded. And think about like Washita Mountain area, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But we searched for a week. We could not find anything. And then during this time, I was periodically calling Spencer's phone, and a lot of times it would just go straight to voicemail, like the battery's dead or something like that. I just happened I had my 3 granddaughters, and we walked down there, and I was going back through his clothes and stuff. Well, inside his jacket pocket, it's one of those jackets that has a pocket way down in there, so I missed it, when I gathered that stuff up and just, set it on the scooter. His wallet was in there, okay? Before Spencer had disappeared on the 20th, I had moved some money over from one account to his regular checking because I had power of attorney at his bank due to his mental health problem.
Okay.
And he was going to finish his Christmas shopping with that. And let's say, I'm thinking, I don't have my paperwork, and I should have grabbed that. But I'm thinking it was like roughly $500 or $600. All right. So he had that amount of money on him, but when I found his wallet in his jacket down there, it had $164. So whatever the difference is only money, to my knowledge, that he had on him. And when he left his wallet down there, it's got his ID, it's got his, debit card, it's got all that stuff. Plus it had, that $164 in it.
Finding the wallet, I think, is crucial for a lot of reasons. So let's get into those. One, they know he had up to between $500 and $600, and when she found the money, it was over $100 that was there. So why didn't he take that? Why? What was the thought behind that? Or was it forgotten? Was he in a hurry? These are the things that I know Tanya was thinking about. We discussed it. And it didn't make sense because this was out of character, or like the term they use is out of pocket for someone to do because he wasn't money. We all need money to survive. And he had that money. So that is something that makes no sense. The other thing too, is whoever picked him up or whatever happened up until this point, we know it revolves around a hotel that he was staying at. In this last segment with Tanya, she discusses a cell phone. And I want to preface by saying, and I've said this before on the lead up to this case, the cell phone was crucial because it was at the hotel where he was staying at, and he was last seen trying to recover this cell phone after he checked out a day or two later. Take a listen.
You know, that whole week after that, I'm calling his phone. Called his phone the 31st, New Year's Eve, hoping he would answer. No answer. Called at New Year's Day, a foreign man answers it. I said, yes, I need to speak to Spencer Clark, please. Oh, no, Spencer, not his phone. I said, yes, it is his phone. I called his phone number. You heard the phone being talked. Another foreign man gets on the phone, and he said, oh, housekeeping phone in room. I said, we have reported my son missing. Where are you located at? He said, we are the Morrilton Inn in Morrilton, Arkansas. I said, okay, me and my husband will be right there to get. So me and my husband proceed. We go over and get that phone. And Spencer, because of his mental illness, he usually has a lock on his phone, just so no one messes with his stuff. He's just, that's the way it is. Well, as I'm sitting there and those people are telling us, yeah, we found the phone, he checked in. They told us, he checked in on the 20th and left the 21st is what they told us. But I'm looking at this phone, right? There's no lock on the phone. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just because they just turned it on or something, or we're powering it. We get in the truck and we start heading home, and I'm looking at his phone, and I start, swiping on it because I'm like, okay, surely if, it would go back to the lock screen. Well, that's when I discovered they'd been in the process of wiping it. His Facebook account was gone, but his Messenger was still on there because now, the two separate apps. Other stuff that he had, all his contacts are wiped, messages, phone calls he made, all that stuff's wiped. And they took it to the Morrilton Police Department, and, it was there almost about 3-4 days, and they, got it back, and I went and got it, and they said they weren't able to recover anything. And I'm thinking, okay, why couldn't they recover anything? So I downloaded the app that recovered just very little, okay? It recovered a text message that was sent to a Robin girl. It was like when you contact the doctor, and they send you like a verification or, hey, okay, call us to schedule this appointment type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think that was on a Sunday or something like that I just, was able to recover that. So it was, I think, a Monday or a Tuesday at work, I decided to call that phone number.
The topic of the cell phone is interesting because it doesn't necessarily prove anything, and here's why. There's no doubt that Spencer's phone was stolen, whether he left it in the room or somebody from housekeeping of the hotel stole it while he was staying there. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's any foul play or anything like that. The wiping of the phone, people do that when they steal them. It is easy. It's happened to one of my children just a couple of months ago, where an iPhone, and I don't remember what kind of smartphone this was, but they're able to go in and wipe it clean without using a password, reset the whole thing. And so, again, quite possible. Now, Tanya, to her credit, wasn't taking no for an answer. Even when law enforcement took the phone, and again, going the extra mile, kudos to law enforcement. Kudos to the new sheriff. Going the extra mile, taking the phone, trying to see if they can get anything off the phone, doing a phone dump, and seeing what they can. They were unable to, and an app, wouldn't you know, an app she was able to download and come up with something. And it was a text message to this girl who we're calling Robin. And lo and behold, it didn't add up to much. That number, the phone number that Spencer was assigned, used to be Robin's phone. And they were able to check out some information up to and including Robin's parole officer. Everything checked out. So this ended up being, unfortunately, a dead end. Now, still the issue is the cell phone was stolen, but you can see on a video when I talked to her about the police, again, doing a fantastic job looking at surveillance video of Spencer going back to the hotel, looking for his phone, apparently without any luck, because Tanya had found the phone with one of the housekeepers or employees at the hotel. Now, we talked to several other people about this case, like we always do. One of those people was in a relationship with Spencer a couple of years ago, Serenity, and who better to talk to about a person that knows them, knows behaviors, try to get an overall picture of what life was like. In speaking with her, she said that when he was not medicated, he was bad. He would just have these moments that he would recognize and check himself into a hospital, which, that's great that he was aware enough to know that he needed to get help. That's why this case is so, it doesn't make sense. And I spoke to Serenity. We talked about what he was like and if she had talked to him. And this is our conversation with Serenity.
He seemed to be doing pretty well. Like, before he had been having a lot of problems and he'd been in and out of hospitals and stuff, but he seemed to be doing pretty good. Like, he had a place and he had a little scooter he was riding around town on, and he just seemed to, I thought he was doing good.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
He called me that Tuesday. I think it was the 20th.
How did he sound to you when you talked to him?
Well, he said that he was drinking Patron and he was thinking about me. And I was like, well, that's probably not a good idea since you take the antipsychotics. I'm sick. I'll talk to you later. So it was a real short conversation. And it sounded like he was in a restaurant or a bar or something like that.
Okay. Did he tell you that where he was staying at?
No.
I thought that was important to put in because I'm trying to profile an individual. He didn't seem like he was in any distress. And again, this was a couple of days before he went missing. He called saying that he was thinking about Serenity. He obviously was drinking. Everybody has a right to do that if you're over the age of 21. So nothing to see here, right? He was just talking to people. And Serenity had said that they would talk often, even though they weren't together, that he would reach out to her. And she said, he sounded good. Like he sounded he was in a good place. He didn't, not just that one particular conversation you heard about, but in general, he seemed like he was in a good place. To me, when we're talking about, and I am not a mental health expert, but you look for signs. You look for, are there patterns of behavior that lead you to believe that someone is in some kind of a trouble? And that wasn't the case here, especially from what everybody said. Tanya was fighting really, really hard to do anything she could to find Spencer. She even was thrilled regarding the new administration as far as the sheriff and how helpful he was and how responsive law enforcement was. In this last clip that we're going to play, as we wind up our interview, she talks about how out of character this was for Spencer, even with having this mental illness that he struggled with. I always say this, and it bears repeating. A mother knows. A mom knows. And she felt this way. And how can you not take her at her word that this was completely out of character? And also a discussion that she had with Spencer's 14-year-old son.
And you can tell too, like, I mean, Ricky is trying to do everything that he can possibly do. And, it's just, every day goes by and we don't get, what I'm saying, there's no leads, there's nobody seen, stuff like that. And Spencer would never, I don't care, when the boy was having, a mental illness problem, and he would sometimes check his own self into the hospital. The longest he ever went was 4 days before he contacted either me or his brother, Dylan Barrett. So he would never go this long, even though he doesn't have his phone, without contacting somebody in the family to let us know, hey, this is where I am. I hate to say it, my boys are mama boys, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
what I mean?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
And he would never, not contact us. And I really had to stress that in the very beginning, because, thinking, okay, he's 34 years old, he went out here and probably met a chick, and, what people do. Okay, that's fine and dandy, but after so many days, that boy's still going to be calling either his brother or his mom, especially right around Christmas time.
Yeah, especially, yeah.
And that's just what we've all had such a hard time dealing with. And it seems like the longer we go by, I'm trying to be tough, but it's starting to really hurt us all, I'm going to say. You know what I mean? We're all worrying now. Amanda is Spencer's ex-wife. They had a son, Toby. Toby's 14 years old. He asked Amanda, she said last Sunday, Mom, do you think my dad's okay, because this is just so out of the norm for Spencer, even with him to have a mental illness, for something like this to happen.
The grim truth about finding Spencer Clark is several things. One, having a comprehensive, common sense alert system in place for those suffering from a mental illness. It is needed not just in Arkansas, but all over the United States, including here in the great state of Florida. Spencer would always contact somebody from home, whether it would be calling them or going and seeing them. You heard from Tanya in her own words how out of character it is for Spencer not to call anyone. You can say what you want about the cell phone and comment down below your thoughts. I don't think the cell phone's an issue. I do think what's an issue is the state of how he left his things. And I'm not saying that, I know what happened to him, and I'm not going to opine on what the possibilities are. We can just lay out the facts as they are. His clothes, everything that he could have needed was left behind, including his wallet with his ID, other identification, and the money. That's a problem. There was a cold front coming through. He tended to live off the grid. But we heard from Serenity and his mom that he was handling things pretty good. He seemed to be on the upswing. He wasn't having any issues. because he was the type of person that if he saw an issue, he would have checked himself into a hospital. He's done it before. So something isn't adding up here. And one of the great things that, and Tanya mentioned this too, was very appreciative, was the response from law enforcement and the fact that they were doing everything they could to not only assist her, but taking what she had to say seriously. Because, folks, a mom knows. She knew that something wasn't right. And even hearing the part about Spencer's son asking, hey, what's going on with my dad? This is what actually happens on an everyday basis with families that have a missing loved one that we don't hear about, that aren't played on mainstream media. This isn't a story that's going to be leading the nightly news for days and weeks and months. But these are the everyday struggles of a regular family that I think it's important to tell, because this story repeats itself over and over again in every small town, middle America, big city, all across this great country. And this is what happens. Spencer Clark, again, went missing around the holidays between the 21st and the 31st of 2022. Again, it's different because he was seen on camera looking for his phone at the hotel he was staying at. He's 34 years of age, 6 foot, 190 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. He has that large Dreamcatcher tattoo with a bear paw in the middle of his left chest and a roughneck tattoo on his shoulder. If you have any information that could bring Spencer home, or information about who might have been with Spencer at the time of his disappearance, please contact law enforcement at 501-889-3309. Again, 501-889-3309. Please refer to case number 22-0582. You can also contact us at the Grim Truth Podcast Tip Line, 321-343-4972. Again, that's 321-343-4972. As always, if you need to, you can remain anonymous. I would love to thank the family of Spencer Clark, especially now at this time where Tanya's passed away, and they're dealing with that tragedy and Spencer missing. I want to thank Dylan, Amanda, and Serenity for helping us out with the case. Very, very important that we find Spencer now more than ever. And I also want to say this, and this is my opinion. All family members are heroes, and when they're advocating for their missing loved one, and they're doing anything that they can do to find their loved one. Tanya was doing it from a hospital bed as she was unknowingly fighting for her life. And as we head out today, I would like to honor her memory. And if you could, please comment down below. Make sure you show love to the family at this terrible, terrible time. And hopefully they can rely on the strength of our viewers and those around them as they go through this. That's going to wrap things up for today. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you want to help the missing and you want to help us spread the word, subscribe to the Grim Truth Podcast YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you leave us a like and comment down below. Let's get these stories out there. Let's continue to tell stories just like this as we continue to be a voice for the voiceless in search of the truth. I'm Steve Stone, and this has been the Grim Truth Podcast.